It's our intention as we sit here today to give Mason Rudolph an opportunity to start. He's a veteran guy. He's a backup, but he's also a veteran guy. He's been in our program a long time. He's here for those reasons. We got a great deal of comfort with him. Why are we making the change, man? We don't like what we're looking at and the consistency of it. What I mean is we're not scoring enough points.
Mike Tomlin, coach of the Steelers. Going to Mason Rudolph. Is this 2019? What year is it? How is he still on that team? What has he done to still be on that team? I mean, really, it is amazing to me. Every offseason, Mason Rudolph re-signs with the Steelers. It went Pickett, Trubisky, Rudolph, and now it's down to Rudolph because Trubisky wasn't good enough. That doesn't bode well for Trubisky's future in Pittsburgh. And, you know, there will be a time for this as we get closer to the end of the season, and maybe the Steelers will turn it around and run the table. But 50 years of following football, I've lived in and around Pittsburgh, and I always kind of have a sense of where the wind's blowing. And for the first time since Mike Tomlin became the head coach, I feel like the wind is blowing toward a separation. And I think it will be Tomlin leaving, not the Steelers firing him. I felt it with Cowher in 2006. It helped that Jerome Bettis, in his first appearance with NBC, said Cowher's out after this year, which he ended up being 100% right. I feel like Tomlin, whether it's somebody calls from another team and tries to work a trade, whether it's a mutual parting, they don't fire people in Pittsburgh. They would not fire him. But it's starting to feel like it's time for both sides to just go their separate ways. It really is starting to feel like that. And I'm a huge Tomlin guy. I was banging the table for Mike Tomlin, even though it meant he was leaving the Vikings as defensive coordinator after one great season in 2006. Great enough that it almost made up for the fact that Brad Childress was the head coach. Tomlin got that job when they were ready to give it to Russ Grimm, and it's worked out perfectly. But it's just at the point after all these years. Change for the sake of change. When you're talking about a football team and the same message and we're doing the same things and we're not getting the results we want, at some point, change, I think, is what you need.
Yes. Well, first of all, let's go to Rudolph because, you know, when it's Christmas week and, you know, you don't like what you're seeing, who else do you turn to but Rudolph, right? It's got to light that thing up, baby. So I don't know if that's really going to happen.
I would rather be struck over the head with a helmet than hear another Rudolph Christmas reference.
Well, get ready and buckle up because I got a few more coming. I really don't. But I mean, look, if you're going to Mason Rudolph because Mitchell Trubisky has not played well enough, then you're kind of screwed. I mean, it is going to be Mason Rudolph probably versus Jake Browning. And like, that's not necessarily the most exciting quarterback matchup I've ever heard of. But look, Jake Browning has been playing well. He's got the Bengals still in playoff contention. And, you know, to your further point, I was thinking the same thing this weekend when I'm watching the Steelers against the Colts. And you got Gardner Minshew playing clean football against that defense. To me, it's like, well, wait a minute. How is Gardner Minshew not turning the ball over against the Pittsburgh Steelers? This doesn't make any sense. And so I think for whatever reason, Mike Tomlin message might not be resonating with guys anymore. And this is also something that you look at with George Pickens and kind of the effort issues that Mike Tomlin also kind of addressed yesterday during his press conference. And you think about what he was able to do with Antonio Brown, right? And all the garbage that we now know Antonio Brown can spew to the world. And we didn't really see that in Antonio Brown's first few years in the league. We just thought he was one of the best receivers in football. And obviously there was all kinds of BS that must have been going on behind the scenes that Tomlin could control. It's not happening there anymore. And so maybe it's just time for that separation, as you were mentioning. There would be teams lined up to try and hire Mike Tomlin, and I think that they should. But sometimes when you're at a place for so long, it just things run their course. And if things continue on this downward trajectory, as they look like they're going to for the Pittsburgh Steelers, then things might have run their course for Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. And that is not something that I anticipated saying when this season started.
if I'm a team thinking about making a phone call to another team inquiring about a coach currently under contract, I'm far more likely to call the Steelers for Tomlin than I am the Patriots for Bill Belichick.
Absolutely.
Period.
Yes.
Commanders.
Yes.
The Commanders,
Yes.
it makes so much more sense for Tomlin. He's from that area. And it's exactly the kickstart that I think he needs at this stage of his life. He's still got the fire. He's still got the drive. And, Myles, I made this point after the Thursday night win over the Titans when George Pickens was upset. Upset during the game, upset after the game. The next day, social media. He did the thing that young players now do to send messages to all of us, and the old people in the crowd like me say, oh, that doesn't mean anything. No, it means everything. That's how they communicate. The mere fact that it came to that point was a sign of failure by Mike Tomlin, because Tomlin's superpower had been to intervene and nip it in the bud and never let it become a full-blown frustration. Manage the guy, sense it coming, right? Pull the plug before the appliance explodes is the best I can come up with in the moment. But understand what's coming and act before it goes off the rails. And I got dragged a little bit for that by some Steelers fans that really don't care. I just thought it was funny that sometimes people don't get the point. Sometimes they deliberately miss the point, and I think they were deliberately missing my point. My point was, and still is, Mike Tomlin of 10 years ago, you don't know anything about George Pickens being upset. You never know he's frustrated. He never acts that way during a game, never acts that way after a game, doesn't storm out of the locker room without talking to reporters, doesn't do stuff on social media. And that to me is the best example that there is a disconnect between that locker room and Tomlin, at least the way Tomlin used to run that team. And I think it's just the kind of thing that contributes to a sense it's time for a fresh start for everybody. And I think the Steelers will be better off. Now, I don't know who the hell they're going to hire, but they'll be better off, and Tomlin will be better off. And that's the thing I always say to the Steelers fans. They rise up and say, get rid of Tomlin anytime they win 2 games in a row. Number one, who are you going to get? And number two, are you prepared to watch Mike Tomlin go somewhere else and be wildly successful? Because that's probably what's going to happen.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, neither of us are saying Mike Tomlin can't coach anymore, because that's not the case. And I think it's very obvious that there are teams, like we said, that will line up to try and get Mike Tomlin in their building. But it's just sometimes when you are at a place for a long time, Theo Epstein said this when he went from the Red Sox to the Chicago Cubs. And now I'm mixing sports and bringing in baseball to a football show. But sometimes when you are at a team for a very long time, things run their course. Your message starts to get lost. It's one of the things that I have admired about Mike Tomlin and Pete Carroll, because they've been so wildly successful at places for so long that you just kind of expect, oh yeah, they're going to be in the mix no matter what, who their quarterback is, what kind of injury situations do they have. It doesn't matter. They're going to continue to get these program victories. You could say the same thing about Harbaugh in Baltimore. So I don't know why this year has been different. You know, obviously they don't have Ben Roethlisberger anymore. And when you don't have your franchise quarterback, that changes everything for you. And Kenny Pickett, I mean, God bless him. Like he's not at that level. Who knows if he's going to be? I don't know. And their offense has had problems all year, and they date back to last year too. But I don't know if Mike Tomlin can get back to the point with the Steelers that he was at, because things have just started to unravel in ways that I never, ever would have expected before the season. And I guess, like I said, it's just maybe things have just run their course there.
You know, I'm looking at some of these teams that may or may not be looking for coaches. Mm-hmm. And there are some names that would be obvious, like the Commanders. There are names that would be intriguing, like the Raiders, the Falcons, the Panthers. Now, they reportedly want an offensive coach, and I get that. But David Tepper used to be minority owner of the Steelers, so he could be interested in Tomlin. There's one, and I know we're supposed to be talking about quarterbacks, and I apologize to Courtney for the fact that we've gone off on this detour. I tried to talk myself out of it before we even started. How about this one that just occurred to me? the New York Jets. Remember that game, Packers-Steelers, a couple of years back?
Oh, yeah.
And I know if I talk about it long enough, the control room is going to find it. The Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers, mutual show of respect.
Yes.
You know, it has been such a shit show this year for the Jets that I feel like, even though I've been saying for weeks now, they need to come out and tell everyone, we're going to load it up and we're going to run it back next year with what we were going to try to do this year. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, who fancies himself the most powerful person on the team, and he is, yes. And when he gave back that $33 million, that bought him a lot of power. Oh, it was so selfless. No, well, okay. It bought him a lot of power. If he goes to Woody and he says, hey, Woody, you know what we should do? We really want to win a Super Bowl with me here. If we really want to do this, something's going on in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin. Maybe that's a phone call you make, Woody. And I don't know anything about his relationship with Woody Johnson. There it is. Well done.
There it is.
There it is. A little, yeah, one of these days. Yeah, I see you. One of these days. Man, I wish I had that guy on my team. Man, I wish that guy was my coach. Hey, guys, maybe one of these days we can work this out. Well, maybe, and you know, I hate to even go there, and I had no intention to go there. And thank you again, Control Room, for finding that. But, man, wouldn't that be something? Mike Tomlin, coach of the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, quarterback of the Jets for 2024. Wouldn't that be something?
Who's their offensive coordinator?
I don't know what else to say.
I mean, the question.
Nathaniel, no, listen, let me tell you something. No. Nathaniel Hackett has more job security than Kim Jong-un, Miles. He ain't going anywhere as long as Aaron Rodgers is around.
You've thrown like 4 turds. I don't know. Like, you've thrown 4 turds into the punch bowl in this segment. That was the biggest one. Like, God, what are you doing over there? There's snow on the ground in West Virginia. It's Christmas. Let's just mention the dictator of North Korea in the football show. Oh, yeah. As we have stirred the pot already talking about Mike Tomlin to the Jets. I mean, I don't even know what I'm supposed to say at this point other than wow.
Should we talk about never mind. Go ahead. Do you have anything else to add before we move on? But you get my point. You get my point. Hackett's not going anywhere. Yes. Hackett's not going anywhere. That's Rodgers' buddy. No. Rodgers' dream scenario is him and Hackett run the offense, and the head coach is a defensive guy who kicks ass and takes names. Okay, we tried it this year with Robert Saleh. I've gotten to know Robert Saleh. This is Rodgers talking. Possibly. Yes. You know what? Nice guy. I like him. Good coach. But he ain't Mike Tomlin. And Mike Tomlin may be available. That's the only reason I started down this path. Because I could see Rodgers thinking it because he's already said how it's great for him to have this defensive head coach who takes care of everything else. And Rodgers and Hackett can take care of the offense. Hackett ain't going anywhere. Hackett is far safer in this analysis than Robert Saleh. Far safer.
Well, frankly, I don't think he should be, but you know, I understand the scenario that you now have brought up, and that yes does make sense. But I mean, from a Tomlin standpoint, I don't know if I would want to necessarily deal with that. Although, yeah, you've got one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I mean, how healthy is he really going to be coming off the Achilles? All of this stuff. I think if I'm Mike Tomlin and I'm playing out my future, would I rather be the coach of the Steelers, the Commanders, somewhere else, maybe the Chargers, you know, or with the Jets, which are like a volatile powder keg? I don't know that that's all that appealing to me if I'm somebody who has options. And in this scenario, this big hypothetical that we now have brought up, Mike Tomlin would certainly have options on the open market.
I understand. But boy, there is something about the idea.
It's a fun idea as a hypothetical, yes, but I mean, you know, it's not even tinfoil hat. It's like I don't even know where we.
It's just creative thinking. We're trying to find a spot for Mike Tomlin, and I was looking at the standings. I saw the Jets, and I thought of Aaron Rodgers, and I thought of Mike Tomlin, and we brought up the. You know, there's something there. between
I see how we got
the
down
two
to
of
that.
them from the idea of mutual admiration. So
Right.
and I don't think
I'm
the
just
average
asking
Jets
questions.
fan is going to be nearly as excited about next year with Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, Aaron Rodgers as they were this year. I think
they could, though.
I know some
Mike,
Jets
Aaron
fans.
Rodgers is
I have to
playing
deal
the
with them
entire
on
season's
Sundays.
different.
They're not very excited. I know.
I know, but
I
I'm
know,
just saying,
but-
if Aaron Rodgers is playing,
but it's been
everything is
such a
different. And the
mess.
offensive scheme looks different. The offensive line looks different. The receivers look different. Everything, and the defense can play from ahead as opposed to playing from behind and feeling like you've got to drag the
I understand.
offense through most things. So
I understand.
I think continuity is not a horrible thing for the New York Jets, even if, as in this hypothetical, Mike Tomlin is available.
Talk to some Jets fans, and you might feel otherwise. Okay, so it's my fault. The entire segment went off the rails because I got fascinated with the potential future for Mike Tomlin. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.